Welcome to Create More Intimacy, a podcast for men. I'm Elisa Stoddard, and I help successful men stop chasing sex and start building real connection so they finally feel close, connected, and wanted again. You were not expecting it, or maybe part of you was, and that almost makes it worse. She said it quietly, or maybe it came out in the middle of a fight. Maybe she said it in the car, looking straight ahead, not at you. Maybe it was at the kitchen table after the kids were in bed. However it happened, the words landed like something physical. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And then something in your chest did something you cannot fully describe. Not quite panic, not quite grief, something underneath both of those. Something that has been sitting in you since that moment that you have not been able to fully put down. You have been turning the sentence over and over ever since, replaying it, trying to find a different meaning in it, or maybe trying to confirm the one you are afraid of. You have been Googling it at midnight, reading forums, looking for someone to tell you it means something fixable or something final, so that you can at least know which way to fall. And here you are. Welcome to episode 57. My wife said she loves me, but isn't in love with me. I want to talk about what those words actually mean, not the version that lives in your worst case thinking, and not the soft reassurance designed to make you feel better for 20 minutes, the real version. What is actually happening when a woman says this? What brought her to this place where she said it out loud? And what the space after it actually requires from you? This is not a crisis management episode. This is a clarity episode. Because most men, when they hear those words, immediately go into a mode that makes things worse. They are scared, and scared people reach for whatever is close. I want to give you something more useful than fear. The first thing you need to understand is that she did not wake up this morning and decide this. That sentence did not arrive from nowhere. It is the spoken version of something she has been feeling, and in many cases sitting with quietly for a long time. I love you, but I'm not in love with you is not a declaration of the end. It is a report. It is her telling you, probably for the first time in this kind of directness, that the emotional connection she needs to feel desire, closeness, and genuine partnership has eroded. She is not announcing that she hates you. She is telling you that something between you has gone missing, and it has been gone long enough that she can feel the shape of its absence. The word love in this sentence is doing something specific. She is telling you that she cares about you. She is telling you that she sees your shared history together, your children if you have them, and the life that you built. None of that has disappeared for her. But caring about someone and feeling drawn toward them are two different things. And the second one has quietly left the room. In love is the part most men fixate on, and understandably so. It sounds romantic. It sounds like passion, like chemistry, like something that either exists or does not. Men often hear it as a statement about attraction, as if she's saying that she no longer finds you desirable in some permanent biological way. That is almost never what it means. What in love actually points to in the context of a long marriage is emotional aliveness in the relationship. It is the felt sense that this person sees me, chooses me, and that being close to them feels like something. When that is present, desire tends to follow. When that has been missing for a while, it goes somewhere else or it simply goes quiet. She is not telling you she stopped finding you attractive because of who you are. She is telling you that the emotional experience of being in this relationship no longer feels like connection. It feels like management, like logistics, like two people running a household and raising children and handling life together without ever really meeting each other in the middle of it. That is what she's saying. And as hard as that is to hear, it is much more useful information than years of silence. This is the part that's hardest for men to take in, not because it's unfair, but because it requires seeing something clearly that has been invisible for a long time. She did not arrive at this sentence in one conversation. She arrived here through a long accumulation of moments where she tried to reach for you and found the door closed. Some of those moments were conversations that went nowhere. She brought something up and you got defensive, or you went quiet, or you pivoted to solving it before she was even done saying what it felt like. She tried again with different words. She tried again at a different time. At some point, she stopped trying to reach through the same door because it kept not opening. Some of those moments were emotional. She was struggling with something, and instead of feeling your presence with her in it, she felt your discomfort with her struggle. She felt you wanting the situation to be resolved, wanting her to be okay, wanting the tension to end fast. What she needed was someone who could stay. What she experienced was someone who was managing her and that situation. Some of those moments are quiet, not fights and not big scenes, just evenings where you sat in the same room and she felt completely alone in it. Nights where she reached for you, not physically, but emotionally, and you were somewhere else completely. On your phone, in your head, in the place you go when you are checked out, but still technically present. She tracked all of it. Not as a case she was building against you, but as a woman trying to understand why the person she married started to feel like a stranger in the house she shared with you. Over time, she stopped expecting things to feel different, so she adjusted. She poured herself into other things, the children, work, friendships, the parts of her life where she could feel present and engaged and like herself. And eventually, something inside her that had been holding on quietly let go. The sentence she said to you is what that letting go sounds like when it finally comes out of her mouth. Here is something most men do not see until it's named directly. Many men move through marriage assuming that the final read on things is theirs, that they will decide when there is a real problem, when it's serious enough to warrant an address, when change is actually needed. The opposite version is just as common. A man so checked out that he has stopped registering her as someone with a full, active experience of this relationship at all. Either way, what gets missed is this. She has been paying close attention. She has been watching this marriage carefully for a long time. She has a read on what's been happening between you that is just as valid as yours, and in many cases more detailed, because she has been the one tracking it. Her judgment about the state of this relationship is not a reaction or an overreaction. It is the conclusion of someone who has been present in a way that you may not have been. She is not asking you to agree with everything she feels. She is asking you to take her seriously as a partner, as a person with equal standing in this marriage, someone whose experience of it matters as much as yours does. Most men were never taught to see it that way. They were taught in ways both obvious and subtle that their role was to lead, to decide, to manage the structure of things. That conditioning does not make a man bad, but it does make a woman feel like her voice lands in a room where no one is really listening. That is not what she needed. And it is part of how she got here. When a man hears those words, there are two different directions that he tends to go. Both are completely understandable. Both also make things worse. The first is pursuit. He hears the sentence and his nervous system ramps up and reads it as an emergency, because it is. So he moves toward her, hard, and tells her he loves her, and he apologizes, and he asks what he can do, and he books a trip, and suddenly, urgently, he's available in ways that he has not been in years, maybe ever. She experiences this reaction as pressure. And underneath the pressure, she feels something else, something that is harder for him to hear. If he is capable of this now, why did it take a crisis? That question does not always get spoken out loud, but it's there. Because she did not need the grand version of him. She needed the present version of him, consistently, in the small ordinary moments that he moved through without much thought. The fact that those moments apparently required an emergency to unlock does not feel like love to her. It feels like confirmation that she has been right to feel unseen. His sudden availability, rather than reassuring her, lands as evidence. The capacity was always there. He just was not using it for her. So instead of opening toward him, she contracts. He experiences that as rejection, which increases his urgency, and around it goes. The second response is withdrawal. He hears the sentence and something in him goes cold. He stops initiating any conversations. He goes quiet. He moves through the house like a man waiting for an outcome that he has no control over. He tells himself he's just giving her space. What he is actually doing is protecting himself from another hit. She experiences this as confirmation of everything she said. She told him something honest and hard, and he left. Not physically, but in every way that mattered to her throughout this marriage. Neither of these responses is malicious. They are both fear, doing what fear does, reaching for the fastest available exit from pain. But they move you further from what this moment is actually asking for. Most men don't see this when they're in the middle of it. The fact that she said it out loud is significant. Women who have fully given up don't say this. Women who have decided it's over do not sit down and tell you they love you, but are not in love with you. They detach. They go quiet in a different way. They stop bringing things to you at all. If she brought this to you, that matters. She may not have said it perfectly. It may have come out in the middle of a fight or in a way that felt like a grenade rather than an invitation. But underneath it, there is the tiniest bit of an invitation. She is telling you something true about her experience. That could be the beginning of a real conversation, not necessarily the end of the relationship. What this moment is asking for is not a solution, and it's not a gesture, and it is not more effort in the same direction that you have already been going. It is asking you to stay. Not just physically, not just to not walk out the door, to stay present in a conversation about what is actually happening between you. To not collapse into apology so quickly that you skip past actually understanding her. To not get so defensive about what she is saying that she feels like she has to protect you from the truth of her own experience. It is asking you to be genuinely curious about what she has been living with, without immediately making her experience about what it means for you. Now, I get it. That is not a small ask, and for most men, it is one of the hardest things that they have ever been asked to do in a relationship. Staying present when someone is telling you something between you is broken, without flinching away from it, without rushing to fix it, without turning her truth into a problem that you need to solve right this minute, requires a kind of emotional steadiness that most men were never shown. But it is what actually moves something. When a man can hear his wife say this and respond by asking her to tell him more, when he can sit with what she says without shutting down or escalating, when he can let her feel that he is actually there and that he can handle the truth of her experience, something shifts. Not immediately, not in the conversation necessarily, but the direction changes. I want to be honest with you about what the path forward actually looks like. Some people will tell you this is fixable with the right moves, date nights, a weekend away, better communication tactics. Those things aren't wrong. They just aren't the thing. They are surface level adjustments applied to something that runs much, much deeper. Some people will tell you it's over, that she's already decided. That's not necessarily true either. The presence of this sentence does not determine the outcome. What happens after does. What actually moves things forward is not a strategy. It's a genuine internal shift in how you understand yourself in this relationship. And that is exactly what most men have been avoiding. Because the shift requires looking honestly at the patterns you've been running. The way you move past her emotions instead of staying in them with her. The way you default to managing rather than engaging. The way you have defined your value in this marriage around what you provide and handle rather than who you are when you are just a person sitting next to her. That kind of honest inventory is definitely uncomfortable. It requires you to consider the version of yourself you have been showing up as, the reliable, capable, keeps things running version. Has not been enough. Not because reliability is wrong, but because it has been a substitute for presence rather than an expression of it. The men who do this work find something they were not expecting. They become different. Not softer, not less themselves, more genuinely present, more able to stay in moments that used to send them sideways. And that difference is not invisible to the people around them. Their wives feel it. Their marriages feel it. The quality of the connection that becomes available when a man does this work is not something you can produce through efforts or tactics. It comes from the inside out. And that's what she's been waiting for. Not a better version of the same pattern. Someone who actually changed. And here's the thing we're sitting with. That transformation does not belong to the marriage. It belongs to you. Whether the marriage fully repairs or not, the man who does this work carries it with him. He shows up differently in every relationship, with his children, with his colleagues, and with himself. The work is not a means to an end. It is the end. But it does not happen by thinking about it. It does not happen through insight alone. And it doesn't happen on your own timeline when the stakes aren't this high. It requires real support, real accountability, and the willingness to stop putting off the version of yourself You have always been capable of becoming. She said something true, something hard, something she has probably been holding for longer than you know. The door is open in a way that has not been before, because she finally told you what is actually happening. Most men never get that. They wake up one day and the distance has become a decision, and no one ever said a word. She said the words. The question now is not whether the marriage can survive this. The question is whether you are willing to become the person that answering it honestly requires. That is not a small question, and it's not one that you should try to answer alone. A relationship clarity call is 30 minutes. We will look at your specific situation, what she said, what has been building, and what would need to shift for things to move in a different direction. I will be straight with you about what I see, and you will leave with more clarity than you came in with, regardless of what you decide to do next. You can book that call at elisastoddard.com. Take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode hit home, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more men find the support they need. And if you are ready to get help or take the next step, you'll find the link to book a free call in the show notes. I'll see you next time.